Hey MVPs, Rico Knows here. Going to talk to you guys about a 2024 win totals bet. You guys know the deal. These are futures bets. We've been doing them all off season. If you're a new MVP and you missed the playlist, go to Patreon, click on the playlist or collection, if you will, and look for win totals. If you're on YouTube, it'll be under, I don't know, MVP locks or something like that. But everything's there. Futures bets are there, and this is a futures bet. I know a lot of you guys don't like futures bets because you don't want to have to wait for your money. All I can tell you is think of it like a tax return, okay? You're going to get your money at the end of the year, especially if you're right. Some of these bets I really believe in. We have a whole chart. I'll show you the chart at the end of the video of how I feel about it. But in this particular video, I'm going to talk about a group of 5 team. Remember, I did every single Power 4 team. They're already done. Go watch the videos. And now I'm doing a select number of group of 5 teams while we wait on the season to start. So every day, maybe 3 to 4 a week, I will be doing at least one video a day of a group of 5 team, except for Thursday through Saturday because that's UFC days. But nonetheless, here we are. It is Sunday, and I'm looking at UCONN. And UCONN, the sportsbook have them at 4.5. Do you think they're going to win 4 games or 5 games? What do you think you have them at? Let's go talk about it. Last season, UCONN, an independent team, went 3-9. Okay, 3-9. They ended the season on a 2-game win streak. Pretty important. You want to win games at the end of the year. But look who they played against, man. They played NC State, who was an absolute monster. And we didn't know it. NC State was actually really good. And they lost NC State by 10 points. I'd imagine they covered the spread. The next week, you go on the road and you lose pretty bad to Georgia State. It doesn't look good, but remember, Georgia State had Darren Granger. He was in his 3rd year as a starter. They had Marcus Carroll at running back, a 1,400-yard rusher, whatever he was. And so you got these guys who are just out of this world. And Georgia State, that last year was their year to be good. And they actually weren't as good as they should have been. I think they started the season maybe 4-5, 6-0, and then the wheels kind of fell off. But Georgia State, last year, seniority in the skill position groups, and it showed. FIU beating UConn, bad loss. There's no other way to put it. That's a bad loss at home. At that point, you got to start rethinking your strat. You get blown out by Duke. Not a big deal. Everybody knew Duke was good. They just beat Clemson. They were nationally ranked at this time. Duke is good until injuries got the best of them, but Duke was better everywhere. Duke is better everywhere, okay? Utah State, you lose by 1 point to a good Utah State team. It's not a bad loss. I know a lot of people think it is, but Utah State is actually pretty solid. They had a good coach until he got fired just the other day, but Utah State has a loaded roster, pretty talented. Reminds me a lot of UConn this year, and we'll get into that. At Rice, you go and beat Rice. You beat JT Daniels and the boys. You beat Connors at running back. You go on the road and beat Rice. It makes no sense, but you're competitive against those group of 5 teams. I like it. 2 weeks to prepare for South Florida. Hey, Byron Brown is him. You couldn't beat South Florida, but a 24-21 loss to a bowl team, I don't think it's that bad. You lose by 7 points to a Power 4 team in Boston College. Once again, I thought it was a great showing, and that is a rivalry game, if you guys aren't aware. UConn actually beat Boston College the year before. So to be within a touchdown is pretty sad for Boston College, if we're just keeping it real. That's how Hafley gets fired right there. That's how Hafley's asked to go back to the NFL, bro. You can't even beat UConn the way we need you to. That's too close for comfort. I'm letting you know. Getting blown out by Tennessee, there's levels to this shit. Getting blown out by JMU, just better everywhere. And then you end the season with 2 wins, and a lot of people think of UConn and UMass as being equivalent because they're both independent schools. And they're not in a conference, you're wrong. UConn is much better than UMass at pretty much every single position group and in coaching. And shout out to Don Brown. A lot of respect for UMass as a team. But when I look at it, I'm just like, UConn's not that bad. So statistically, let's go up here and look at it. Quarterback. Taquan Roberson, he's gone. Your starting quarterback. He transferred to go be the 2nd string or 3rd string at K-State. Congratulations. Fagano is back. Never really impressed me. Congratulations. He's serviceable enough, if you will. Zion Turner hit the transfer portal, went to Jacksonville State. Probably would never see the field over here at UConn, to be honest. Running back room. Loaded running back room. You have Cam Edwards coming back, team's leading rusher. Victor Rosa, stud running back, coming back. 2nd leading rusher, was the leading rusher the year before, I think. Devontae Houston hit the transfer portal. Believe he's gone. I believe he's gone. Double check, but I'm pretty sure he's gone. Where did he go? It doesn't matter. I believe he's gone. Nobody else is going to really matter, and we'll talk about why. Brian Bruton, he also hit the transfer portal. Can't stay healthy. Can't really get on the field, but he went to Middle Tennessee State. That transfer confuses me. And what I think is pretty cool, Jelani Stafford has 15 carries as a defensive lineman. Jelani Stafford has 15 carries as a defensive lineman. Go turn on the tape. This shit's great, bro. Justin Jolly, leading receiver, gone. Went to NC State. Congratulations. Cam Ross, leading wide receiver. Did Cam Ross leave? Cam Ross left. Man, where's the transfer portal? Sorry about that, guys. I just got to double check. I'm pretty sure Cam Ross left to JMU. Where'd he leave to? I'm tripping. Maybe Cam Ross didn't leave. Simple enough. Maybe I'm wrong. No, Cameron Ross. He left to JMU. Give me my money, bro. Give me my money. I was about to say, man, maybe I'm wrong. No, I'm not. Whew, that's crazy. All right, so back to what I was saying. You look at the stats, losing your leading receivers. Brett Buckman is back. Porter, shout out to Porter, man. He showed up all the way in UConn, played okay, but he's gone. Still here, gone. Don't remember if Kevin is around still. Nobody else really matters. We'll talk about it. Joe McFadden, doesn't matter. Not here anymore. Not going to be the kicker. Losing your leading tackler at Jackson Mitchell, not a big deal. I know it feels like it is, but it's not, and we'll talk about it. Ronte Jones, beast of a player, been starting many years, got Brown back, and I don't know if he's even starting. This is your third leading tackler, and I don't know if he's going to start. We'll see. He's been around for a while. Plack, not going to, no. Dixon Williams, back again to start. These are multi-year starters in the safeties. Their safeties are pretty good. Yates, complete stud, second year in a row, looking good, 4.5 sacks, 2 back-to-back years. There's Jelani Stafford. He's an athlete. They got him playing running back. He's an athlete. And we'll talk about the rest. It hurts to lose a guy like Sheeran in the transfer portal. It's not the end of the world, but it does hurt. Ben Wahad also left in the transfer portal. Yeah. So, how do I feel about this team? Well, first we'll start with the wide receivers. Wide receivers, let's do this. Let's go over here. Let's look at the transfer portal first. Who did they gain in the transfer portal? I'm going to tell you UConn dominated the spring transfer portal cycle. I think UConn did the best of any group of 5 team in the transfer portal. I'm trying to think of other group of 5 teams that dominated the transfer portal like UConn, and I can't think of any off the top of my head. There's probably some. How dare I do this? I don't want to miss. I don't want to miss on a transfer portal class. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to think. In the MAC, nobody really dominated the transfer portal the way I anticipated. In the Sun Belt, maybe Tulane did really well. Tulane did really well in the American. Memphis obviously did amazing in the transfer portal. Charlotte did pretty solid. Again, I'm trying to think, guys. I'm going through all the teams who did well in the transfer portal, group of 5. I'm pretty sure San Diego State's happy with their transfer portal class. But anyways, UConn, for me, feels like the far and away winner in the transfer portal. And a lot of that has to do with where they were, right? So it's hard to improve when you're a 10 or 11 win team. It's not hard to improve when you're a 3-win team via the transfer portal. 3-win teams are very enticing because it's not recruiting, bro. It's the transfer portal. You got a chance to start. You got a chance to play. You can have an impact. You're better than the players on the team. So let's talk about it. Tank Green here. Ja'Kai Green, he goes by Tank Green. Tank Green transferring in from Charlotte. This is a former St. Francis kid. I believe he was at Maryland for a while, and now he's here at Charlotte. Charlotte, he started, I want to say, the 7 first games of the year. And then I didn't see him again until the bowl game. So started the first 7 games of the year. Then I saw him in the bowl game. You know, I go watch film on every player, guys. So Tank Green, good get for UConn, who will be a starter. Jaden McDonald. Jaden McDonald showing up to UConn was insane to me, and I'm still confused by it. I still don't. I just assume somebody didn't work out in the transfer portal. Somebody doesn't look as good as we think they do. And shout out to UConn because you went out and got a starter. Okay, if you guys aren't aware, I'm going to explain to you my thought process here when I look at these linebackers. First and foremost, the strongest position group at UConn is linebacker. There's linebacker, running back, wide receiver, safeties. Those 4 really stick out to me on tape. But they're linebackers. Look what they did in the transfer portal, and then look what – okay, so one of your leading tacklers is here. That's strong side linebacker, right? Sam. I think your will linebacker is Julian Simon. Julian Simon is a former 4-star guy, played high school ball up in Washington, signed with USC. After being with USC for a couple years, went to Tulsa last year, had a great season with Tulsa, and then he and his older brother, who's Jaden over here, both transferred from Tulsa to UConn. So you got the two Simon brothers coming over, and I'm like, yo, you got starters at linebacker that have no business at UConn. You found some. And then Aaron Key, being in his final year, I hope he gets it right. Aaron Key is a former all-freshman, all-conference for Conference USA back in the day. He's a starter. He is starter caliber at Western Kentucky. But there's no way he's starting over somebody like Jaden McDonald. So I think Jaden McDonald starts over Key, and I think Key just adds depth to every single linebacker position. Either way, it's a good problem to have. You have amazing players. But Jaden Key, I remember the first time I watched him play, they were winning the state title here in Georgia. I watched him play in high school on a loaded team. North Gwinnett had so much talent. I've done a video on this on TikTok and talked about it. Just stud after stud after stud on that team. And they won the state title, first state title in school history. And Jaden McDonald was the guy on that team. And then he goes over to Troy. And he only led Troy in tackles last year. One of the very best group of 5 teams out there. And he led Troy in tackles. So he parlays that into a Power 4 offer, transfers to Indiana. Unfortunately for him, when he gets to Indiana brought in everybody from JMU, and you're talking about Fisher and some other guys who already knew the defensive staff and the defensive scheme, if you will. And I don't know if Jaden McDonald was on the outside looking in. I don't know if he was penciled in to be a starter. Nobody talks about it. But after spring football, he hit the transfer portal. So you got to just assume he wasn't the starter. So you leave Indiana, and now where do you go? Well, you go to UConn. So UConn just landed a phenomenal linebacker. Bona fide starter. We know he can do this thing on Saturdays. Great. Don't talk, not about potential. Production. That's a production guy. So it's an incredible get late in the transfer portal cycle for UConn. Shamar Porter, 6'3", 185, looks daunting on tape. No shame in not being able to start at Kentucky at wide receiver. Kentucky has a loaded wide receiver room. I've seen plenty of 4-star guys leave Kentucky. And even like the Anthony kid, he went to A&M. Now he's at Arkansas. Like there's guys leaving the Kentucky wide receiver room. Lewis just went to Troy and was amazing until he got cancer. Chris Lewis was great. One-handed catches everywhere. There are good players at Kentucky not getting on the field. And Shamar Porter, being a former 4-star, this is a great talent to get in the wide receiver room. And I don't think he's in the 2 deep. I think it's great to get. He's not in the 2 deep. Here's Nick Evers at quarterback. Should probably be the starting quarterback. Former 4-star. Was at Oklahoma. Didn't work out at Oklahoma. Transferred to Wisconsin. Still didn't play. By the way, I predicted all this. If you find the TikToks, go look for them. Do a search, hashtag Wisconsin, hashtag Rico knows. You will find Nick Evers videos where I tell you he's not it. Nick Evers can't play at Wisconsin. If you can't start at Oklahoma, you can't start at Wisconsin. There's levels to this shit, but those teams are equivalent to me. Talent-wise, there's not enough drop-off for you're going to be like, well, I'm 5th string at Oklahoma. I'm going to go start at Wisconsin. No, you're not. You're 5th string at Oklahoma. You're going to be 3rd string at Wisconsin. And it was right. But being benched and not beating out Tanner Mordecai ain't the end of the world, right? Now, losing out to a walk-on was a problem, who just transferred to Albany, if I remember correctly. But I still look at Nick Evers and I think, well, that's a talented young man. He's talented enough. So now you got a starter who's kind of dynamic. And when's the last time UConn was going to get a quarterback of this talent level? I don't buy it. I don't know. Okay? So hopefully it works out. And if it doesn't, they got running backs for days, bro. Just hand off the ball. UConn has 4 incredible 4 running backs better than you think. If you don't watch UConn football, they got 4 running backs better than you think. I promise. Go turn on the tape. Jack Barton, he's not coming over from Georgia Tech. It says Georgia Tech, but he made my bottom 10 list of transfers that should have never made the move. He played at Holy Cross last year and jumped in the transfer portal. I guess he was coming back home, got an offer from Georgia Tech, but in the winter, I immediately said, oh, this kid doesn't belong here. He can't play at Georgia Tech. He doesn't look at – when I watch him on tape, I'm like, he's not a Georgia Tech guy. So to see him transfer 4 months later out of Georgia Tech to UConn, great get for UConn to get more depth on the defensive line. They're already penciled him in as a starter. I don't know what that's about. It doesn't really move me like that. If he's the starter, congrats, but that's news to me. And if he's that good, I don't know. But it's still a good get for UConn, and I was still right. And people hate when I'm right because I give you the hard truth, man. I just tell you the truth. That guy's not good enough to play here. And people don't want to hear that. All right, Javon Banks, speaking of not being good enough to play here, this is a very good player. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's an impact player at the Power 4 level. But he was at Mississippi State for like 3 years, transferred to K-State, and he's still always in the rotation. He's still a contributor. Here, he's an every down player. UConn, he's an every down player. He can do it. He's just a little undersized for Power 4 football, but he's good for where he's at. I think it's a good get. Quality get. Shout out to UConn for getting a good player. Shout out to Javon Banks. TJ Sheffield. Just Mr. Consistent, man. TJ Sheffield, always the second leading receiver on every team he's on. And he's been at Purdue for a couple of years. Second leading receiver every year. Just kind of in that receiver room. Dependable. Going to get it done. Good for 40 receptions if you want to throw it his way. Not a bad player at all. Not a bad player. And he was going to go to Michigan State. And then he hit the portal and he ended up at UConn again. So he hit the portal, went to Michigan State, and said, no, I'm going to go over here to UConn instead. I like it, man. That's a good get in the wide receiver room. For sure. For sure. Javarius Sims doesn't move me on tape, but more power to him. He's been a nickel back and kind of in the rotation at Central Michigan for the last 2 years now. Kind of just on the fringe of being a starter, an every down player, if you will, but he's not quite there. Good depth, good size. You got a Mac safety. I was really surprised to see him penciled in as a starter, as a nickelback starter. But more power to him. Maybe he's developing every year and he's getting better. Maybe. There's Julian Simon. I think he's a good player. If he gets on the field, he's athletic, dynamic, and he can play. That's a good player. Skylar Bell. Skylar Bell's a known commodity. Third leading receiver at Wisconsin last year in receptions. I think he was fourth in yards. But Skylar Bell was good, and they just had so many transfers come in that he got pushed out of the depth chart at Wisconsin, and he went and hit the portal. Wants to go somewhere else where he can be a star receiver. UConn's the spot. This kid can play. Oh, he's a power forward player. Don't get it twisted. Dude's getting over 30 receptions at Wisconsin. He can play. You get a coaching change, offense coordinator change. They bring in their own guys, and they bring in studs, and you're just like, all right, I guess I got to go somewhere else. Skylar Bell is a treat for UConn. I look forward to him balling. Josiah Gathings. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. I just hope he doesn't die. Listen to what I'm saying. When I watch him on tape, and I don't know the young man personally, but when I watch him on tape, he gives off the aura or the vibe that he is a head case, that he is a problem, that he is a character concern. I don't know. But I'm just telling you, you see his antics on the field after every catch. He's arguing with somebody, something. He's on the sideline. He doesn't want to talk to teammates. Just a little agitated at all times. Now, he's a baller. He was Akron's leading receiver last year. Adams didn't play. I think it was injuries. And Gathings was just doing his thing. I don't see him as a starter at UConn, and that's good. That's a great thing. That means your wide receiver room is deep if Gathings showed up and he's not a bona fide starter. If he's in the rotation, that's incredible for UConn's wide receiver room. Because I watched this man be the alpha male at Akron last year. Just something to think about. Jarrell Robinson, third running back at St. Francis, and St. Francis does not know how to evaluate the talent in the running back room. Very good running back. Exciting to see him at UConn. He's a little young. He probably won't be the starter for another 2 years. Good depth. Shout out to him. Malachi McLean and Reggie Akles. I'm going to talk about both of them. Malachi McLean, safety. Reggie Akles, corner. What it comes down to is these guys were starters and in the rotation at New Mexico State. And then New Mexico State had a huge influx of talent in the secondary. Like, they brought in a bunch of other dudes. And when they brought in these other players in the secondary, it pushed these young men to the bench. And they were once contributors back in like 2022, 2021, whatever it was. So to see them kind of fall out of favor kind of sucks for them. But it was, New Mexico State's out here going to win 10 games. They had an upgrade in talent, and some of these guys got left out. So to see them on the fringe of the roster here, they're going to add depth to the secondary. They're going to help you out. Congratulations. Not a bad get. Chris Freeman can kick. I know He was the starting kicker at Indiana last year. I know he missed like 3 or 4 field goals, but he made a 50-yarder. He's got the leg. He can do this. He missed 1 extra point all year. I think Chris Freeman's a good get in the transfer portal for UConn. I really do. Wes Ho, this one doesn't move me. I don't even understand this signing. The young man used to play fullback, and now he's moved to interior offensive line. I guess you needed depth coming over from Syracuse. Fine. I just don't see it. I don't know what's going on. Shout out to On3. They don't know what they're doing here. Jaden Brown. I don't even know who Jaden Brown from Winslow, TWP, Atco, New Jersey is. Like, this isn't a real person. I don't think this is a real person at all. And I don't. I've looked everywhere. This isn't a real thing. I know this Jaden Brown from Miller Grove. He goes by Mel Brown, and he's a running back, and he's actually pretty decent. Shout out to Gardner Webb. He'll be a backup running back, 3rd or 4th string. Probably 4th string behind Jarrell Robinson and obviously the 2 starters. So it's not really there. Connor Stutz, hey, averaged 45 yards a punt over at Sacramento State. Congrats. Welcome to the FBS. Not bad. Jaden Simon, like I said, the older brother, 1 year of eligibility left. Stout up in the middle. Going to be the nose tackle. Coming in with your brother. Both starters from Tulsa. Looks like a decent get there. I'm cool with Jaden Simon. Deion Biggins. Intriguing to get Deion. So shout out to Deion. He's a JUCO bounce back. You see the little JUCO house here coming over from Coastal or Gulf Coast, Mississippi Gulf Coast. But if you see the jersey, you recognize that he used to be at Liberty. Now he couldn't get on the field at Liberty, and there's no shade in that. Liberty had Chris Ghost Megason, Rocket Rahimi at safety. They had players. So he wasn't on the field at Liberty, but he did play special teams, and he was a gunner. And I'm telling you guys this is going to sound absurd, like coming from me. But when I watch tape and I watch him as a gunner on the punt team, I think he runs a 4.340. I think he runs a 4.340, and I mean, I'm talking legitimate 4.340. He's running past the jammers. Like, he's just getting past all of them. They can't jam him. He's so fast. I think he's pretty special. We'll see what happens if he can play corner or not, but man, he's fast. He's a kickoff returner at least, special teams at least. That's his impact for me. Curvins, just another depth guy on the defensive line. Been at UCF for a while, kind of in the rotation. I think he's been there 2 or 3 years, and it really never came to fruition. Didn't work. Jordan Wright, a little small. They say K-State, but I want to say he's a JUCO bounce back as well. Yeah, he's feisty. You need size, though. All in all, I think they're pretty solid. When I look at the team, I look at the wide receiver room, like I just said, you have stud wide receivers. Your 3rd leading receiver coming back from last year. Skylar Bell and Sheffield are both very good in the Power 4. This is a group of 5 leading wide receiver. I like all 4 of those guys. Offensive line, surprised to see West starting. Congratulations. Offensive line, I gave it a 3 or a 4 in the rankings. I want to say it was a 3. That's not very good. You want to be in the 5 to 6 range in the group of 5. So they're not very good. Tight end, losing Jolly hurts, right? Nick Evers is here. Running back room is loaded. Defensive line. I like the defensive line. Stud athletes at the nose tackle positions. Good players. And then defensive ends. If Barton's your guy, congrats. But Yates is a stud. Yates doesn't belong at UConn. I think Yates gets paid next year. I think Yates gets yanked. I think UConn has a good NIL. Whatever it is, it's good. I don't know if the basketball team's got a great NIL. It probably does. But the football team is winning in the spring in transfer portal recruiting, kind of the way Cal does. And I noticed that in the spring, Cal and UConn recruit a lot better than anticipated. Something's going on there. All right, there's some money somewhere. Linebackers, loaded. I love their linebacker room. There's just studs everywhere. And getting McDonald to come over from Troy is a great get. Their safeties are the bee's knees, numbers 1 and 2 on tape. They're everywhere. They've been leading this team in tackles for at least 2 years now. They are 3-year starters. Very good safeties. Corners, huge question marks. Huge question marks at corners. I'm not impressed. Isaiah Davis is just a young kid who's getting his shot. And then Ackles, I've seen him lose his starting job, but he is 6'2". So he's got the right size and everything. All right. All that to say this. I think I talked about everybody here. I think I said what I wanted to say about every single player. Just making sure I mention everybody. I don't miss anyone. Yeah. Okay. Now let's go look at their games. They opened the season against Maryland. It doesn't look good, right? Maryland on the road. Maryland does look bad, but Maryland has better players than them probably in the vast majority of position groups. I think it'll be a competitive game, though. I really do. I think they're going to beat Merrimack, no problem. Go on the road at Duke. Duke is not the same team they were last year, but they're probably still good enough to beat UConn. So I have Duke winning that game. They're right down. They're 1-2. I think they're better than Florida Atlantic. I think their defense is better than Florida Atlantic. It's going to be a competitive game. They're at home, though. And they're at home for the next 3 games. And they're better than Buffalo and Temple as well. So they're beating Buffalo and Temple, and they're beating Merrimack. Right then and there, they're at 3 wins no matter what. If you don't think they're beating Florida Atlantic, that's fine. But they're at 3 wins already. 2 weeks to prepare for Wake Forest. I don't think they can be they won't score. Wake Forest defense is so mean, guys. I went back and watched tape on Wake Forest defense. It is so mean. Offense leaves a lot to be desired. That defense is good. Okay? I think they beat Rice again. I know Rice is getting EJ and all this stuff. I think they can beat Rice. And I think Georgia State's going to have a down year. Shout out to Georgia State and everything they're building, but they lost a ton of talent. They lost a ton of seniority and talent. I think Georgia State might have a down year. They're definitely going to beat UMass. So watch this. I have them winning 1, 2, 3, 4 games. Automatically, they're winning 4 games. UMass, Temple, Buffalo, and Merrimack. That's 4. Remember, Sportsbook has them at 4.5. I have them with 4 wins right then and there. Now, can they beat Rice, Georgia State, UAB, FAU? All they have to do is beat one of those coin flips, and you hit your over bet. I think they can beat 2 of them. So they're going to have 4 wins, and they got to just win one of those games. I think they're a lock for the over, guys. I think they're a lock for the over, and it's at minus 118. It's on the chart. Let me pull it up. You guys see it here? Oh, apologies. Everything just went away. So this is the chart for you guys if you weren't tracking MVPs. Here's UConn. Just added them to the bottom. I believe they're a lock for the over. By the way, in my last video about ULM that I made for free, I had a ULM coach reach out to me. One of the coaches at ULM reached out to me, and he said, Rico, we're going to surprise a lot of people. We can run the ball. He said, Rico, don't be surprised if we win more than 3 games. I said, okay. I have you on the under. He said, Rico, we're going to win at least 3 games. I said, okay. So, just so you know, ULM coaches reached out. But it's all good. Shout out to UConn, though. UConn, I have them on the over. I think they win 5 to 6 games next year, this upcoming season. I do. Wide receiver room is loaded. Running back room is great. And their defense looks stout. And their special teams looks improved. Yep. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Make your bets, guys. Shout out to the MVPs. Peace.